Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back.
All right, all you positive heads, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me today, first day of October. I am certainly happy to see fall arrive as I live in one of the hottest places in North America. So this time of year it finally starts cooling off a bit, and I'm a happy girl. Today, I thought I would get into a topic that I've kind of been avoiding for a little while. And, it's October, it's Halloween month, so let's get into the dark and mysterious things. Why not? Yeah. So I thought today we would talk about negative entities, attachments, things of that nature. Because, I take note of a lot of the things that I see online, a lot of different discussions that are being had online. And a lot of times I don't participate in the discussions, but I do see the same type of threads or thoughts going on. And I think it's important to address this for sure. So the way that this came up for me was there was a comment in a very small group I belong to. And the original comment was basically about a woman who had a QHHT session, and she had made contact with her higher self. And ever since then, all her messages, all her intuitions were coming more clearly. It was just easier for her, and it was natural, and there was no fear associated. It even had the same similar voice that she heard in her session. And that was such a beautiful comment and thing to share in this group. And then there was a person who commented below that comment that said, sounds like attachments, and talked about how, not all attachments can be negative and you should be protecting yourself and all this. And I was a little like, oh man, let's not go there. We're talking about higher self contact here. This is a beautiful thing. Attachments? Okay, this has gone too far. This is why I want to address this. Here's my perspective. And I know that this is a belief system that many have attached to. And so I don't want to push any buttons, but I also just want to share this perspective because I don't believe in attachments. I don't believe in it at all. I believe that we have the free will and we make the choices to allow certain energies to exist or not exist. We have all the choices. Yes, there is good and bad or negative and positive energies, but there is never, ever anything that attaches itself to us only in our thoughts. This is where we allow this attachment, is in our own mind. We're not actually being like attached to by negative entities. And really, like when we believe that this is happening, what is that doing? Bringing up so much fear. And how is that helping your personal evolution? Because now, if you believe this, okay, so say you have this attachment, this negative attachment, and now you're giving it that power and saying that this is the reason why I'm acting this way or feeling this way. It's because of this attachment. And now I need somebody to take it off. I can't do this myself. I need a shaman or an energy healer or somebody to come and help me with this. You have just taken all of your power away, given all the power to a thought form. Because again, there is no such thing as an entity attaching itself to you. Maybe offering thought forms, sure, that you're accepting and inviting on some level due to free will choices. You know, like I talked a little bit about yesterday, which wolf do we feed? We have all of the infinite possibilities available to us. Which one do we feed? Which one are we giving the attention to? And when you think about it like this too, every time you give something that amount of attention, that's exactly what you are attracting. So I thought about this as an analogy. So say you're sitting in a crowded room, in a waiting room, say, for example, everybody's minding their own business, and you decide that you're going to stare at one single person. And you're just staring at them. What happens? Eventually, they feel it and they start looking back. And imagine that you just kept looking at them without making any facial expressions or really doing anything, but just looking at them. What's going to happen next? A lot of humans aren't going to like that so much, right? And now you're going to be really getting some attention. So I think this is really the way it works. If we want to give those types of energies that kind of attention where we're staring at it, we're asking for them to give us a whole lot of attention. And that is certainly not what we desire. But we do this to ourselves unintentionally. So how do we get around it? We talk about protection. And on some level, energetic protection is necessary. Say you're going to be channeling or opening yourself up to other realms. Yeah, give yourself some protection. What is that protection? Love. Love is always your greatest protection. When you can look any energy in the face and love it, see the love in it, have love for it, that's all the protection you ever need. Love is always the answer, right? It's the answer to everything. What happens when somebody is grieving? When you're grieving, what's the answer? Love. What if you're angry? What's the best response? Love. If we can always respond with love, we bring the light in. So I think all of this really comes down to a matter of perspective. How do you want to look at it? Do you want to look at a negative energy and be fearful of it and give it attention? Do you want to personify it? It's really just an archetypal thought, isn't it? Personified. So where is our perspective on that? Is it loving or is it fearful? We get to choose. We get to see the love. That is all the protection we ever need. You know, there's lots of talk in the disclosure community about, the negative forces that are controlling everything and the archons that have been in charge and dominating the planet for eons, right? Really, what good does this type of focus do us, right? When we focus on it and it creates a bunch of fear, what are we going to do about that? What's our greatest protection? Love, again. It reminds me of Ghostbusters. Did you ever see the original movie from the 80s? And at the end where the big slime was just blobbing over the whole big building. And then the city started to sing and feel love for one another. I think that's what happened. I think they started to sing. But when that happened, the slime retreated. It couldn't exist in all that love. That's how this universe works. I remember at Conscious Life Expo too, Bashar did a talk and someone asked a question about the archons controlling us. And he wouldn't even let her finish the question. He just kept saying, no, no, no. And she kept trying to ask the question. He said, no, why are you still talking? No. I mean, it was kind of a little forceful, but he was making a very important point that nobody manipulates the reality that you live in but you. And even if the idea is offered, you need to actually agree to that idea and then match that vibration. So it can feel that someone is manipulating your reality, but that's not the case. No one manipulates your reality but you can pretend that someone can by buying into a belief system that they are, but they are not. That's in a direct quote of what he said. So this also reminds me of when we talk about, or when you hear about alien abductions and things being of a negative nature. Dolores Cannon, who I always talk about, she started off doing her regression sessions with UFO abductees. And in her thousands and thousands of cases, she never found a negative case of alien abduction. Not a single one. And the reason why she didn't is because this technique takes people beyond our conscious perspective of what happened and shows it from a higher perspective, from your higher self's perspective. And from that perspective, it's seen in a whole different light. It's not exactly from the fear-based perspective that our conscious mind sees it as. So that's a very interesting point too, because from our perspective, from our fear-based perspective, we can create that negative reality, or at least really feel like that is the exact reality. But it's not. Not on that higher level, it's not. Interesting, yeah? I found a clip. Abraham Hicks, of course. It's called Uninvited Entities Are Bothering. And I actually cut out the question because it's a long clip. The woman asking the question basically said she had a friend of a friend who had some attachments and she wanted to help him. And so she did a meditation where she did a sort of clearing. And afterwards she was very emotional and she was just wanting to know if she had helped him and what he could possibly do to help to detach these entities from him. And this is what Abraham had to say. Take a listen.
But we wanted to begin, as you began speaking to us just now, when you said you have a friend of a friend of a friend who has some uninvited, frivolous, non-physical, maybe even belligerent energies messing around. We wanted to say to you, there is no such thing as uninvited anything. But there is such a thing as a confusion about how one is inviting. In other words, you invite through your awareness to things. You invite through your attention to things. And every subject is really two subjects, what is wanted and lack of it. And so we want to clear something up because we can feel it pulsing around the room here a bit. And we want to say to you that there is only a stream of well-being. You never walk into a room and look for a dark switch. You just don't look around for that switch that you flip that floods inky, misty darkness into the room that covers up the light. You never worry when you open the dark closet that the darkness will sweep in and make the room you're standing in darker. In other words, there is a light switch or a resistor that can resist the light, but there is not a source of darkness. Any more than that there is a source of sickness or a source of evil, there is only a not allowing the light that is there to shine, not allowing the well-being that is there to shine, you see. And so what happens when people hook up with something that is less than wanted, whether it's a sickness or whether it's an interaction with something frivolous as you are describing, what it is a spin-off of man's conscious mind. And what we mean by that is every thought that has ever been thought still exists. When you think a thought, that thought begins to think, in that it begins to offer a pulsing vibration, and law of attraction manages all of those thoughts. And so there are rivers and streams of thoughts. And when you think about Esther, when she thinks back about Sunday school, if you ask her what she learned in Sunday school as a little one, she will tell you that she learned about the devil, and she learned to hate him so. In other words, that was the thing that she learned most about. She does not remember now. She's not sure if that's the only thing they talked about or if it was just the most exciting thing, so it's the thing that she remembers. But that's what she came away from remembering. In other words, it's what's talked about and has been from pulpit after pulpit after pulpit for generation after generation after generation. So it's in the consciousness. And people who want to be happy beings, all of you innately do, who look out into your world and you see things that you like and you say, I would vote for more of that, I would embrace that, I would support that with my time and energy and money. And they look over and they see things that they do not want and they say, we've got to do away with that. Do not realize that in this universe that is based upon attraction, there is no such thing as exclusion. You cannot push anything away, because in your trying to exclude it, you are actually activated the vibration of it, so you are including it. So when you look at things wanted and say yes to it, you include it in your vibration. When you look at things not wanted and you shout no at it, you include it in your vibration. So there have been so many billions of people for eons looking at things not wanted and pushing against them, and there is a hefty stream of consciousness out there that you can tap into. And anytime you get vibrationally in the vicinity, it's not so different than your radio signals. As Jerry and Esther were driving up from Orlando, Esther kept using the scan button on the radio in their Yukon, waiting to find something that was interesting. She would listen for a while, and then she would drive out of the range of it. And then she would push the scan button again, reaching for another signal as she went from community to community. And so the same sort of thing is true. When you get your tuner set at a certain place, then you have access to anything that is in your vicinity that is on a similar wavelength. And so you cannot ask the universe to be eradicated of all of the vibrations that don't please you. People tend to want to do that. We see this place as a well-stocked kitchen with every ingredient imaginable. And you say, well, I would like to make this lovely pie. I want to make an apple pie. And we say, good, the ingredients are there for you. And you say, yes, but there are also ingredients that I do not want in my pie. There is Tabasco sauce. I do not want this in my pie. Please do not put Tabasco sauce in my pie. Take it away from the kitchen. And we say, just don't put it in your pie. And you say, but it might get in my pie. And we say, not if you do not put it there. And you say, but it's in the kitchen. It might get in my pie. And we say, not unless you put it in your pie. And you say, but I would feel ever so much better if you would just remove it altogether from the kitchen. Because if you would remove it from the kitchen, then I know for sure that it could not get in my pie. And we say, it cannot get in your pie unless you put it in your pie. And you say, but others have it in their pie. And I know some of them did not want it in their pie either. And that, yeah, it is in their pie. And we say, just don't put it in your pie. And you say, but it might get in my pie. And then you say, oh, look, it's in my pie. And we say your attention to anything is what puts it in your pie, you see. And so attention to a subject like this, in other words, I have a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who has this experience, and we say, stop telling the story. In other words, it just puts it in your pie. And then you feel obligated to do something about it. And do you know that when you wish well for another, you are holding them in the position that you want them to be in, you connect with source energy, and your thoughts about them are of value. But unless they are in the vibrational place where they can, in other words, anytime someone is sick, they want wellness in an exaggerated way. And the cells of their body are asking for the wellness. Step 1 has taken place, and source energy is answering. Every cellular request is being answered. But that person that is beating the drum of, I'm sick, the person that's beating the drum of the test, that's beating the drums of all of the worrisome thought, the person that's looking and finding the shadows that is called disease, that person is not holding themselves in the place of allowing the well-being that the cells of their body are asking for. And so let's say a healer enters the picture, and the healer says, I will put my hands on you, and I will summon the great well-being from the great beyond, and I will direct it toward your body. And we say, they don't need somebody else to direct well-being toward their body. Their desire is doing all of the summoning that is ever necessary. But you can help them immensely in your well wishes. The only help that you or Abraham or anyone can offer to anyone is helping them to soften their resistance so that they can begin, by the power of our influence, to allow the well-being that they are asking for, you see. We want you to know that there is not an evil stream. There are not even frivolous beings who have access to any of you if it is not for your attention to them. And like cancer that you do not want, or like a car accident that you do not want, or like anything that you do not want, attention to a subject is an activating of a vibration. An activating of a vibration is an asking for this thing you do not want, you see. So what we would say to someone who says, even in their fear, oh, I have some attachment of some creepy thing that is going on. Jerry and Esther had a dear friend who called them icky beings. They're icky beings that are after me. Turned out the way she invited them was she had someone that she was trying to draw to her who didn't want to come. So she went to a bookstore and looked in the witchcraft section for something that she could use to make this person do something that he did not want to do that she wanted him to do. And then she said, I've never done anything to attract anything like this to me. And we said, you were looking for means of control and of control over another, and you found vibrational alignment with thought forms. First there is a thought, the longer you think it, then it takes form. That's all it is. And so when you understand that there is nothing for you to guard against. So let's say that we are visiting with this friend of a friend of a friend, and this friend is feeling uncomfortable about something that has come about. How is this manifesting? Are they using a Ouija board or something? How is it manifesting?
I'm not really sure. I know that there was a time when he was involved with drugs and alcohol, or drugs, and I don't know if it all came about in that way.
Well, all drugs and alcohol do is put you in a place of least resistance or less resistance so that whatever vibration you've got going is easier for you to realize. But that in and of itself would not. It is inconsequential what the invitational door is. But what we're wanting to say to all of you is that if we were visiting with someone who was having this experience, we would laugh and we would say, well, all it is thought form that has come by vibrational invitation. And you can tell by the way you feel when you are having thoughts, whether you're a vibrational match to something not wanted or whether you're a vibrational match to something wanted. Mm-hmm. And if you want to play this out to the furthest of extent, you will discover that even in their irritation, these thought forms that feel very vivid and real, just like nightmares, they have no way of interacting with you in any meaningful way. Mm-hmm. And so as you just talk it down, like anything unwanted, it will begin to be less and less and less until it will be gone. We would not for a moment say, oh, let me see if I can work on that. Oh, let me see if I have any incantations or any witch's brew or anything that I can utilize or any mantra. We would not give it the time of day because it does not deserve the time of day. Because what deserves the time of day, what deserves attention is the well-being that is in this moment sort of latent within this person's experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Before we continue on with today's episode, for those of you interested in getting more fantastic fungi in your life, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about a friend of mine's brand new company, The Great Mother. Recently, I have been drinking the Great Mother's superfood mushroom coffee alternative called Ritual, as well as regularly taking their awesome Ally microdoses, and I am truly loving both. As you probably know, these days, many of the world's highest achievers and performers swear by microdosing. The problem is it can still be difficult to get a hold of magic mushrooms. That's why when my friend reached out, who lives in an area and country where legalization is not a problem like it was in the past, and said he'd be willing to offer microdoses to my listeners, I wanted to pass the word along. Ally microdoses are 100% organic. And in addition to a small amount of the magic active ingredient, they also contain functional mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and other brain boosters like bacopa. Ally is essentially a full spectrum nootropic. And of course, the coffee alternative Ritual doesn't contain magic mushrooms, but it has an array of the best organic functional mushrooms in the world. And, with functional mushrooms, it's really important to get them from the highest integrity sources. And whereas some other highly popular mushroom coffee alternatives on the market only contain a few varieties of functional mushrooms in their actual ingredients, Ritual has 7. Not only does it contain more types, it also contains 3 to 4 times the amount that the big brands have in each serving. And it tastes amazing. I actually like to have it on its own, as well as mixing it into my coffee sometimes as well. However, since this is definitely a unique offering, there are a few steps. First, just reach out and request to follow the private page, thegreat.mother on Instagram. Once you've been accepted to follow, just message what you're interested in getting and someone will get back to you.
So, where is our attention? What are we giving attention to? Are we giving attention to that constant stream of well-being that is always surrounding us? It's there. We just need to pay attention to it, right? And she said at the beginning, just like Bashar said, there is no such thing as an uninvited anything, just the confusion about how we invite it. And we do that with our awareness and our attention to things. Just like I was saying about that staring at someone in a room, or even if you do this like driving in the car. I do that sometimes for fun if I'm bored and I just kind of stare and see how long it'll take for someone to look at me. And then usually I smile and wave just so they don't think I'm a creeper. Well, they'll probably think I'm a creeper anyway, but at least I'm not just like weirdly staring at them. I'm just doing a little experiment. Depending on how cool they are, I might roll out my window and tell them what I'm doing. But yeah, the little things I do just to keep myself amused in the car. It's just a fun little experiment. How long is it going to take for that person to notice me? And they always do. We all have this intuition within us. We know when someone is staring at us, right? So when we're giving attention to something, that attention is reflected and attracted right back to us. So remember, only one stream of well-being. There is no source of darkness. I love that analogy of the dark room. And I've heard another very similar one, which is you can't walk into a room filled with light and bring in a small little bit of darkness and darken that room. It just doesn't work that way. But you can take a tiny match in a dark room and it will light the entire room. So there is no source of darkness, but just only not allowing the light to shine. There's no switch for darkness. It's a light switch, and it's either on or it's off. And there's that allowing point again. We gotta allow it. It's that we're not allowing it. It's always there for our grasping. Like she was talking about, Source is always providing with our desires, always providing. We are just unwilling or unable to allow the acceptance of it. And all that takes is our attention to the well-being and not giving the attention to the negative or the things that are out of alignment. And we certainly cannot be pushing things away and saying, get out of here, we don't want you, because all that does is pull it right back in. There is no separation in this oneness that we live in. We cannot push anything away. It just attracts the vibration of it, therefore including it. That radio signal analogy that she used while traveling is a great example. What have we set our tuners to? We have access to anything on that wavelength. Anything. Where is our tuner set? It's a really good thing to think about. Where are my thoughts? And how often are my thoughts centered in love? Because we really do have a well-stocked kitchen, don't we? And do you really want to put Tabasco sauce in your pie? I don't. I like apples and cinnamon and sugar in my pie. Certainly not Tabasco. But it's there. It's there if I want to put it in. And the more attention I pay to it, the more likely it's going to wind up in my pie. And no thank you. And the other point she made there, no healer can do this stuff for you. I love that point. It's a point that I always like to talk about, is that you do this for you. And also that the only help that you can offer another is by helping to soften them up a little bit, by using your own influence of just being who you are to allow them to see that and soak that in and say, there's something that they're doing right there. Just by your presence and your being, that will help them to allow their own well-being. Because again, Source is always, always providing. So remember, these things are just thought forms. They're not negative entities, attachments. There is no way of these things interacting with you. And you can do all the mantras and incantations and all the practices. But if you just don't give it the time of day, don't give it the attention, then it's not in your experience. Give the attention to the well-being. And remember, love it all. Everything that comes your way. If you can respond with love to every single situation, every single thought, then that is the reality that you create. A high vibratory reality filled with love. And if it's hard to do that in those moments, just remind yourself to say, I love you, I love you, I love you. It works. Keep saying it over and over. Even put your hand on your heart. That'll help a little bit too. But just keep saying that, and I promise you, that feeling will subside and you will feel so much better because you're focusing on the love. With that, everyone, I am out of here for today. I'm going to leave you with a song. This is called Shadows Past by Elephant Revival. Until next time, everyone, love you all.
You say leave me far behind and I won't bother you no more. I won't bother no more. 1, 2, 3. Dry your eyes, look inside. May we find it's quite all right. We deny the sun called the shadows light. Tell me our shadow past can change, the does exist, we insist. As is, as is, as is. I've seen the road and where it's straight out, washed away in the rain. washed away, away in the rain. Dry your eyes, look inside. May we find it's quite alright. Weary-eyed, we wonder why, but we deny the sun called shadows light. Maybe I'll find you open-handed, intertwined, your dream and mine, knowing love